Now we will talk about the medulla oblongata internal structures. External structures we have studied in detail. Now, as I told you, we'll study it in 3 different cross sections. This from we are, studying it from lower portion and we'll ascend up. So then this section is at the level of, this is the portion of pyramidal decussation. So this section you see is the transverse section of medulla at the level of pyramidal decussations, means lower portion of the medulla. By the way, let me tell you that this lower portion of medulla is very important for autonomic functions, respiratory center, cardiac center, vasomotor center. They are all lying here. The autonomic centers for respiratory control, for heart rate, for blood pressure. And that's why, if you remember, while I was teaching you about the cervical vertebrae and the hanging judicial and hanging the capital punishment, the cause of death was because of the injury to the transverse band of the cruciate ligament onto the pedicles of the atlas. So because of that, this axis, the odontoid process that was compressing this lower portion of the medulla and was the reason of death. So that's the important point about the lower portion of the medulla, the autonomic functions or the nuclear fibers passing through this portion. Now, study about the cross sections we study in 2 headings. One is the gray matter and then is the white matter. So firstly, we'll study about is the gray matter of the lower portion of the medulla. So if you remember the cross section of the spinal cord, that was a butterfly shaped gray matter having 2 dorsal horn, 2 ventral horn and the central canal. Similarly, now look here, you have this, the dorsal horn. Actually, dorsal horn is this, and this is the ventral horn, right? And the central canal is in its place. So, in this peculiar thing about this lower portion of the medulla is that this anterior horn of the spinal cord has been, splitted into 2 sets because of this decussating fibers of the corticospinal tract. So because of these decussating fibers, the anterior horn, this gray matter, has been splitted out and it is a separate portion of the gray matter now. So this separated out gray matter because of the decussating corticospinal tract, or you can say these. Actually, remember one more important thing, that this fiber, the corticospinal fibers, right, they were coming down from the posterior limb of the internal capsule. They are descending fibers, and majority fibers, around 80% fibers from here, they move to the opposite side. Means what? They are not coming from that side to this side, rather from this, this is the tract. So from here they will, these decussating fibers, they reach to the opposite, the contralateral side, into the lateral funiculus to form the lateral corticospinal tract. The majority, 80% fibers, 10 to 15% fibers, although stay there and continue down as the anterior corticospinal tract. Okay, so the direction of fibers is backwards and laterally towards the opposite lateral funiculus. So because of this lateral corticospinal, the better word you can say is the lateral corticospinal tract splits this anterior horn, and this anterior portion of the gray matter of the anterior horn lodges the nuclei of, remember, the medial group of nucleus in the anterior horn is always for the axial musculature. And that's why this medial nucleus in the anterior portion is the nucleus of the C1 spinal nerve, right? And because it is lying in the medulla, not in the spinal segments, so that's why it's called supraspinal nucleus, or the motor nucleus of C1 spinal nerves, right? Supraspinal nucleus here medially, and laterally placed the nucleus of the spinal S3 nerve, spinal nucleus of S3 nerve, laterally into the anterior portion of the gray matter, but it has been separated out from the rest of the gray matter. Now spinal cord is at its position. Now look here about the dorsal horn, right? The dorsal horn, you can see, has been, evaginated, or you can say that is extending deep into this, fascicular dorsal column, that's fasciculus gracsalis and fasciculus cuneatus. So because to enclose these nucleus, the gray matter is extending into this fasciculus gracsalis and cuneatus. So you find this is the nucleus gracsalis, and this is not limited till the lower portion. This nucleus reaches to the upper level of the medulla, right? Because of that, on the dorsal aspect, remember there was this gracile tubercle, cuneate tubercle. So, but not at the upper level, rather, because on the upper level dorsally you don't find this white matter, because there is this fourth ventricle. So this nucleus will reach, will stay. I mean, it doesn't extend beyond the mid of the medulla on the dorsal side. So this nucleus gracsalis lies here, and this is the nucleus cuneatus. And as I told you, just lateral to this nucleus cuneatus, you find is an accessory cuneate nucleus. Remember, and this was for the unconscious proprioceptive sensations from the upper limb reaching to the cerebellum of the same side through the inferior cerebellar peduncles. Then the the afferent sensations of touch, pain, fine touch, and pain temperature was being relaying in the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and this also is a elongated nucleus. So remember, this was forming tuber cinereum on the lateral side in the upper portion. So this is the nucleus of spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, and this is the nucleus, and just like you have the nucleus, and this is the fasciculus gracsalis, fasciculus cuneatus. Similarly, nucleus with the periphery, it is covered by this tract of spinal trigeminal nerve. This is called the nucleus of spinal. This is called the spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve, and this is the nucleus, the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So that is all about the gray matter you have studied. Now we'll talk about the white matter. So white matter, the important structures in the anterior funiculus, in the anterior portion, was this corticospinal tract. However, down below it will now further descend as the anterior corticospinal tract, while this portion will continue down as the lateral corticospinal tract. Then this is the same as the spinal cord on the lateral margins of the lateral funiculus. These are the ventral and dorsal spinocerebellar tracts, right? And another important thing is this lateral spinothalamic. Although you have an anterior spinothalamic tract also, but we have not mentioned. We only mentioned to the important structures. So this is the pain temperature carrying tract, lateral spinothalamic tract. Lateral spinothalamic tract is at the same position where it was in the spinal cord. Got it? And dorsal funiculus is having the same structures. You have fasciculus gracsalis or tract of Gall, and this is the tract of Budak or the fasciculus cuneatus in the dorsal portion of the white matter of medulla, the lower level. Okay. So now we will talk further about the transverse section of the medulla in its mid portion, and this mid portion of the medulla is said to be a section through the sensory decussation. Sensory decussation. So what I'm trying is slowly try to grasp the different terminology and orient your knowledge with the help of diagrams. Because as we'll keep moving above, you'll get to know more of the new words, more of the new structures. So keep grasping the structures till now, and we keep recollecting the past information also. That's how, because it's like too much if you are fresh to it. So now you see the difference. First of all, this is like a section at the middle of the medulla passing to the sensory decussation. That's the most important structure you find change here in the middle portion is the sensory decussation. Now, first thing that you observe here, that the section of this portion is nearly circular, right? And it still is having somewhat similar features of that of spinal cord, because it's still having a central canal surrounded by the gray matter. Although the gray matter now has shrinked, like if you compare the previous slide, if you remember the previous slide, this gray matter was extending into the white matter to enclose those nuclei, nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus, accessory cuneate, spinal nucleus trigeminal, right? So the gray matter was extending into the white matter, but because this portion now becomes, thicker, this section is, if you compare the section, this section becomes wider now in a medulla, in the mid portion. So these nuclei get detached from the central gray matter, right? So the nuclei, they all will get detached and will lie peripherally, while the central canal will be, the rest of the gray matter segregates along the central canal. So this is what you'll find is here, that these nuclei, which was initially in the lower portion, they were within the central gray matter. Now they are all detached and placed separated out, while the rest of the nuclei, especially of the nuclei of the, the cranial nerves, you will find, because now we are proceeding above, right? So we will start finding nuclei of the cranial nerves as well. So they find is the gray matter, much similar to that of spinal cord. Okay, so let's study about the gray matter initially. So if you remember about the spinal cord, the anterior horns, they were general somatic efferent nerve fibers, the collection of, pyramidal cells. Similarly, now this functional column, I have told you about the functional column. Those which arise from the basal lamina are the efferents. Those which arise from the alar lamina or lateral planes are the afferents. So there in the median plane is this nucleus for the hypoglossal nerve, right? So hypoglossal nerve nucleus is most medial nucleus, and even you find that this nerve emerges, and within the intraneural course it continues down ventrally and emerges on the anterolateral sulcus, which is just lateral to the pyramid. So you can say between the olives and the pyramid, this bulging is called the pyramid, and this bulging is called the olives because of the inferior nucleus. So it emerges between the two. Now this is hypoglossal nerve. The next nucleus, what the next nucleus is called, the special visceral efferent. Now, special visceral efferent is for the muscles of the branchial arch. Important thing is that this nucleus sinks down into the white matter, and that is called nucleus ambiguous, right? So if you remember the arrangement of the functional columns, the next is special visceral efferent, which descends down here deep into this white matter and is called nucleus ambiguous, right? From here it's this 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves, they arise. Then further lateral, if you remember, the functional column was general visceral efferent nucleus, and general visceral efferent nucleus is for the smooth muscles. This is an autonomic fibers nucleus, and here from here the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers arise, right? So in this new category, at this level of the medulla, you find is the dorsal nucleus of vagus, right? So this is the dorsal nucleus of vagus. Then if you move further laterally, right, the medial most of the afferent functional column is general visceral afferent, right? And then natal to that is special visceral afferent. So general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent, remember, both of them were forming a single elongated nucleus, and that was called nucleus tractus solitarius. So there you find is the nucleus tractus solitarius, right? And in this elongated nucleus, the special visceral afferent component is, upper in position, right? Special importance means that is placed in upper in position. The general visceral afferents are in the lower portion of nucleus tractus solitarius. So this elongated nucleus is laterally placed. Now what functional column lies further lateral to this will be general somatic afferent, right? General somatic afferent. And for general somatic afferent, that was same as the dorsal horn of the spinal cord, right? And that was carrying, exteroceptive, proprioceptive, and as well as pain, temperature, and vibration, and 2-point discrimination. So a lot of stereognosis, all those sensations were being categorized as general somatic afferent, and that was also in the dorsal root of the spinal. So these nuclei actually got it. So general somatic afferent component has been aligned peripherally. Beyond to that lateral is this, because of this nucleus tractus solitarius, then you find is general somatic afferent. And that includes nucleus gracchalis, nucleus cuneatus, accessory cuneate nucleus, and the spinal nucleus of trigeminal. All of them are in the category of general somatic afferents. Got it? Still lateral to that was another functional column, and that was special somatic afferent, and that is for the hearing and balance. Although optic nerve nucleus is also in optic nerve function is also considered in that, but the nuclei I am talking about in the brain stem is that of vestibular and cochlear nerve. But that you will find in the pons, you can say in the upper medulla or at the level of the pons, lower pons. So that functional column you're not seeing here. So I believe this is the orientation, how you can remember the structures. If in case there is no labeling in the diagram, they might ask you in an MCQ format by tagging a nucleus and ask you which nucleus is this. So that's how you can remember the arrangement. And that's why I remind you that the functional components and the functional columns are really important to understand. Okay. So that was about the gray matter there. Then here you find in the rest of the white matter anteriorly, as you all know, because we are down below, we have studied about the pyramidal decussation, but now we are reached above. So that means you will find only the pyramid, that is the corticonuclear fibers passing here. And little to that was this inferior olivatory. However, this is the lower portion of the inferior olivatory nucleus, which looks like in a shape of a crumpled purse, right? Which has its hilum on the deeper surface. Then this is lateral spinothalamic tract. Hello, anybody?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then good. So still you find that lateral spinothalamic tract is still in its position where it was in the spinal cord. That means in the lateral funiculus. And even the spinocerebellar tracts, they still continue in the same position as they were in the spinal cord. Got it? So you have seen this is all about the white matter, and these peripheral general somatic afferent nuclei, they are also surrounded by their tracts. Like this is the nucleus cuneatus, this is tract, this is called the fasciculus gracchalis, this is fasciculus cuneatus, and this is the tract of trigeminal nerve, spinal tract of the trigeminal. Now there is still something remaining, and that is the median portion. Now in the middle line, these are the paramedian, in fact, because they are paired, so you cannot say them as median, rather these are medial, or you can say the paramedial structures. Just below, anterior ventral to this dorsal, to this gray matter, you find is the medial longitudinal bundle. Remember, medial longitudinal bundle was very much important for your movements of the eyes. I told you that was synchronizing the, switching between the third, fourth, sixth, and eighth cranial nerves, so that you can move your eyes smoothly. So that was about for which there's this medial longitudinal bundle. And now the most important structure in this is this medial lemniscus. Now this is also called as paramedian band because adjacent to the median. Now why is this medial lemniscus being formed here? That is important of this section. The hallmark feature of this section is this medial longitudinal bundle, medial lemniscus. And why medial lemniscus being formed? Look here now. These are actually the first order neurons coming right from the peripheral receptors of the lower limbs. and the lower half of the body, and these are called the reaching through this to this nucleus gracilis. And from here, the second order neurons, they pass to the opposite side. They decussate in the median plane and reach into the anterior portion of the medial lemniscus. Important about. Then from this upper half of the body, the proprioceptive sensations, exteroceptive, conscious proprioceptive. Remember, these two tracts are carrying conscious proprioceptive sensations, right? That means stereognosis, 2-point discrimination, tactile discrimination and all, touch, vibration, pressure and all. So this from upper half of the body, they reach here, the first order neurons relay here in the nucleus cuneatus. And the second order neurons now decussate and reach to the opposite side. Remember, these fibers reach into the dorsal portion or the medial lemniscus. So what you'll find is that because of gracile fibers from the gracile nucleus are reaching anteriorly or ventrally in the medial lemniscus, while fibers from the upper half of the body are reaching into the posterior portion of the medial lemniscus. So the somatotropic representation of the body will be like this. So your cranial portion will be placed, the represented cranial or the upper half of the body will be represented on the dorsal portion of this medial lemniscus, while the lower portion of the caudal portion of the body will be represented on the ventral portion of the medial lemniscus. Clear? And don't forget, there is another tract which also merges with this medial lemniscus, and that is anterior spinothalamic tract, because that was also carrying exteroceptive sensations, except pain and temperature. Pain and temperature was being carried by the lateral spinothalamic. So this is about the medial lemniscus. So this arching here is actually called the internal arcuate fibers. Internal arcuate fibers. And that's why this is called the area of sensory decussation. Okay? Internal arcuate fibers. Decussation या medial plane में ये हो रहा है. Actually decussation is this and this. So ventral decussation is that of gracile fibers from the gracile nucleus, and dorsal decussation is for the fibers of cuneate nucleus. Okay, so that was about. Now look here, accessory cuneate nucleus. This was a nucleus which you find only here. And this nucleus is, because of this, there was a bulging here on the dorsal aspect. Accessory cuneate nucleus was also producing a bulging here dorsolaterally, and this also is bringing unconscious proprioceptive sensations from the upper limb to the cerebellum through the inferior cerebral peduncles. It reaches to the same side nucleus, and this is similar to the Clarke's column, right? Because in the Clarke's column there was this synapse of the first order unconscious proprioceptive sensations carrying fibers, which were further continuing up in the form of spinocerebellar tracts. But here it's this, remember that if this is asked, that nucleus, accessory cuneate nucleus is same as Clarke's column, right? Clarke's column you have been taught about in the lamellar organization of the spinal cord. Okay, so and then another, these are the few points regarding MCQ purpose. If it's asked, like, there are 5 nuclei of cranial nerves that extend in both open and closed part of the medulla. By the way, this section is through the closed portion of medulla, right? You can see the central canal here. You don't find a 4th ventricle on its dorsal portion, so this is the closed portion of the medulla. So the nuclei extending down here and the both open and closed portion are like, general somatic efferent, that is the 12th hypoglossal nerve nucleus, right? Then nucleus ambiguous, right? This also is elongated nucleus. Dorsal nucleus or vagus, you've thought about. Then nucleus tractus solitarius, that also has been thought about. And spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, general somatic efferent. So all these are elongated nucleus. They extend both in the open and closed portion of the medulla. Means like now the next slide which we'll see, that is the upper portion of the medulla, you will find the same nuclei there also. Okay. So now we will talk about, first of all, this is a general pattern, a prototype diagram, so that you remember that's to make you learn about the different nuclear functional, the functional components. Look here now, this we're going to study about the upper portion of the medulla, and you know that the most, the biggest gray matter you find here is the inferior olivary nucleus, which is in the form of a crumpled purse, which has its hilum to deep inside, right? Dorsally placed hilum. Now look at the functional components. This is the floor of the fourth ventricle, because we are approaching to the upper portion of the medulla, which forms the floor of the fourth ventricle. Then this, general somatic efferent is the most medially placed functional column, right? You know about this. The next functional column I told you is special visceral efferent, and this nucleus I told you sinks down and reaches deep into the white matter, and this all is having reticular formation. So it sinks and settles in the reticular formation of the medulla, and this is called the nucleus ambiguus, right, for the 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves. Then the next nucleus functional column is general visceral efferent, the parasympathetic outflow, and these are the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers, and this here is actually forming the dorsal nucleus of the vagus. However, above you have inferior salivatory, superior salivatory nucleus, lacrimotory nucleus, right, as well as Edinger-Westphal nucleus. They were all in this category. Then the afferents, there were 4 afferents, but medial 2 functional components, which is general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent. Together they join to form this functional column called the nucleus tractus solitarius, of which the upper half is by special visceral afferent, lower portion is by general visceral afferent. This is all you know. And one thing also you are appreciating, that all these are afferents, so they are having the cytons outside the CNS, right? So they form ganglion. So you have been taught about all the ganglions, right? Although spiral ganglion you will study along with the vestibulocochlear nerve. The rest of the ganglion is, geniculate ganglion, the facial nerve, trigeminal ganglion, then superior and inferior ganglion of the glossopharyngeal and vagus. These are all same as the dorsal DRG, dorsal root nucleus of the spinal nerves. These nuclei, got it? But this will not be found only one type of afferents, and those are the proprioceptive sensations carrying fibers to the mesencephalic nucleus of the trigeminal, because those fibers are unipolar neurons, and these fibers are pseudo-unipolar neurons. Okay, so then the lateral functional column I told you is again sinking down, right, in this, not in this horizontal arrangement of the nucleus, but it sinks down, and that is this special general somatic afferent, and that includes the nucleus of the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, right? And the most lateral functional column is this special somatic afferent, which was bringing in vestibular cochlear sensations. Got it? So that was about this different nuclei. And lastly, we will study about the transverse section of medulla at the uppermost level. So at the uppermost level, you find one thing that makes you identify the diagram is that the dorsal portion is exposed, and you don't find the central canal. The central canal has actually merged with the posterior wall, and it's exposed dorsally to form the floor of the fourth ventricle, right? And now what about the gray matter surrounding the surrounding the central canal? So the gray matter will again align the floor of the fourth ventricle, but the nuclei will be separated out, right? The gray matter has been segregated out into different functional columns or different nuclei of the cranial nerves. Got it? So one identifying feature is this. Other important feature is that you are now seeing is the inferior cerebellar peduncles on the two sides. Right? This also is an identifying feature of upper section of medulla. And the another important feature is that although this is not because this you were finding at the middle portion also, actually at the middle they started, but this will still continue up, and this is the medial lemniscus as well as the inferior olivary nucleus, which is like the biggest gray matter at this level. So now let's see, the firstly we'll talk about is the gray matter in this section. Gray matter, it's easy now. This is the gray matter surrounding central canal. You can remember that way. So central canal bana liya yahan pe, that's forming a floor ventricle. Now the arrangement of the nuclei will be same. This is general somatic efferent nucleus for hypoglossal nerve, which descends down and emerges from the anterolateral sulcus between pyramids and olives. Then ambiguous, this is dorsal nucleus, and you have this nucleus of tractus solitarius. So from all this you will find that it's the 9th and 10th cranial nerve, they have the same nuclei. 9th and 10th cranial nerve, they arise from the same nuclei, right? So you find this is either 9th or 10th cranial nerve, and there is 11th cranial nerve also that arises from the ambiguous nucleus ambiguous. So you find that this is 9th and 11th cranial nerves which arise here from the posterolateral sulcus, that is just between, posterolateral sulcus means, behind you find is the inferior cerebellar peduncle, and ventrally you find is the olives, the bulb of the olives, and in between the olives and the inferior cerebellar peduncle, you find this 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves arising by a number of rootlets. Okay, so you've talked about now the new nucleus in this section is additional nucleus, and the lateral most functional column is special somatic afferents. Like so, for the special somatic afferents, you find two different. Hold on, look here. The arc of this functional column is like this. This is the functional column. Don't carry with yourself with this, because it's like this, right? So after dorsal nucleus, it's this nucleus tractus solitarius, and then you have this nucleus of trigeminal. Now additional nucleus, what you're finding is here the two nucleus, right, of the vestibular nucleus. These are called the medial and inferior vestibular nucleus, right, on the medial aspect of the inferior cerebellar peduncle. And just so closely applied to this inferior cerebellar peduncle, you find this nucleus. Can you see this nucleus and this nucleus? So they so closely applied to the inferior cerebellar peduncle, and these are the dorsal and ventral cochlear nerve nucleus. That is the most laterally placed nucleus. So this is dorsal and ventral cochlear nerve nucleus, and this one is the dorsal cochlear nerve nucleus. So these are all special somatic afferent nucleus. Got it? And still what you're saying that lateral spinothalamic tract is still maintaining its position in the lateral funiculus, and even the spinocerebellar tracts are still maintaining the same position that is on the lateral surface of the lateral funiculus. They all will not be seen further in the pons. Why? These spinocerebellar tract, actually, you may find actually the ventral spinocerebellar tract, because it reaches to the level of superior cerebellar peduncle, but the dorsal spinocerebellar tract you will not find further in upper segments of this brainstem, because it is going to be merged with the inferior cerebellar peduncle to reach to the same side of the cerebellum. Okay. Then about the medial structures, as you know, this was medial longitudinal bundle that has been taught to you. Then you have been taught about this medial lemniscus, the decussated second order neurons of this conscious proprioceptive sensations. So this means if injury happens at this level, there will be sensory loss on the opposite side, right? Because the fibers have now decussated. Okay, so in between now here, between medial lemniscus and medial longicular bundle, you find this tract, tectospinal tract, right? Tectospinal means from the midbrain level, it's coming down. And ventrally, it's this pyramids, and another nucleus here is arcuate nucleus placed ventromedial to the pyramids. And in addition, now you find about this, let's talk about this medial lemniscus. We've already discussed, yes. So inferior colliculus, yes, the two additional nucleus are these, you know, to the two ends, to the two open ends of this crumpled nucleus, that's inferior olivary nucleus, you find two nucleus at the two edges of the open portion of the hilum of the inferior olivary nucleus, and these are called medial and dorsal accessory olivary nucleus. So you find medial and dorsal accessory olivary nucleus at the two ends of the open portion of hilum of the inferior nucleus. Now, what about inferior olivary nucleus? Let me tell you that it has afferents coming from various sides. Afferents reaching to this nucleus are from the cerebral cortex. Fibers descend down to the inferior olivary nucleus from the red nucleus and periaqueductal matter. And aqueduct, you know, is in the midbrain. So both of them, red nucleus also is midbrain. So from cerebral cortex, then red nucleus, periaqueductal gray matter of the midbrain, as well as now from below, that is the spinal cord also, fibers reach to this inferior olivary nucleus, right? Descending as well as ascending, ultimately fibers reach to this inferior olivary nucleus. And now what happens, look here, the fibers emerging out from this, they will decussate and will reach to the opposite inferior cerebellar peduncle, right? So these fibers are olivocerebellar fibers or olivocerebellar tracts. And important is that these fibers have a very special name, and these fibers are called climbing fibers. Very important hit question is cerebellum. So the what are the climbing fibers? Learn it here, that these fibers are olivocerebellar fibers, and these fibers arise from the inferior olivary nucleus of the opposite side, then decussate and reach to the opposite side through the inferior cerebellar peduncle. They will reach the cerebellar cortex, right? So that was about the olivocerebellar tract, right? Through the inferior cerebellar peduncle, and these are called climbing fibers. They reach the opposite cerebellar cortex. Okay, so that was about the sections, and the, you know, you've got to know about both external and internal features of the midbrain.